Hello, Leanne. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, tell me, who are you? Where are you from and where are you based now?
So I'm Leanne Sicrea. I'm from Australia, from Newcastle, Australia. And we lived in Newcastle pretty much all our lives, about 10 years in Sydney. And then during the pandemic, we were asked to move to Hong Kong with my husband's work. And we said no, because Hong Kong was all a bit scary at that stage. And then they came back and asked us if we'd like to move to Singapore. And we'd traveled to Singapore a few times. So my husband and I said, absolutely, we'd love to. I have a good friend that lives in Singapore as well. So this was the conversation started in 2020, but we didn't actually move until 2022, April 2022. So it was a long, drawn out process.
Mm.
Um,
And had you sort of told people like we're going, and then it was this awkward thing that you just hung around for ages?
Absolutely, because we didn't know, no one knew how long the pandemic was going to go on for. So we felt like we were very much in limbo for a good year and a half. So that was challenging because, we were trying to make plans, but then we weren't sure. We didn't have an exact date. We knew we both really wanted to do it, but we had to do it when it was safe. So
Yeah.
yeah, it
That's
took
a,
a while.
that's a long time to be living in that limbo sort of stage as well. That when you're like, okay, do I sign on for another 6 months of something, or do we book the kids in for another term of swimming lessons, or do we do all of these things that sort of, I don't know, mean commitment? So when you finally got a move date, was it relatively quick?
It was so quick and so chaotic. Even though we had the year and a half to sort of mentally prepare, nothing really prepares you for a big move like that. So we had animals that we had to, we had my daughter had a horse that we had to sell, and a dog that we had to try and find a home for because he was too old. We couldn't bring him with us, and yeah, just organizing schools and where we were going to live in Singapore and what we were going to do with our cars and our house and, all that sort of stuff because we wanted to move for, the medium to long term. So it was never going to be a 1, maybe 2 year stint in Singapore for us. We wanted to really make a go of living somewhere else other than Australia. And I think that we had, because prior to children, AJ and my husband and I were really big travelers. So we would travel all over the world. And then with COVID, I think it really hit home that we were really stuck in this little bubble and we just wanted to get out. We were just over it. So, yeah, we definitely, with the move, in it for the long term. So whether or not we stay in Singapore for 3, 5 years and then move maybe to Hong Kong after that or Dubai or somewhere else where without a doubt we will not be going back to Australia in the short to medium term. Yeah.
So that's cool in itself, in that like this, it's sort of like back to pre-kids stage
Mm.
where you can be like, we can have open-ended plans and we can think big. And I guess that's the joys of knowing that you can, if anything ever fell over, you can always go back to Oz, and it's nice and easy and functional to be able to slot back into a life there. But that's also really exciting.
Yeah.
Do the kids know that this is that long-term open plan?
My 3-year-old does not care. He loves living in Singapore and he would live anywhere as long as he's with mum and dad and our daughter. So as long as he's with the family unit, he's happy to go wherever. I think three-year-old is a really good age to start moving them around. But my 9-year-old daughter, on the other hand, I always knew that she would be the one that really struggled with the move, and she, without a doubt, has been. So, like, husband so happy to go, so ready to leave the bubble. Me also so happy. 3-year-old happy, 9-year-old daughter a challenge because they've got. I mean, she'd lived in that one place her whole life. Although she'd travelled, she'd only lived in that one place in Newcastle. All her friends were there. all her family are there. Like I said, her horse, which she had a beautiful connection with, and the dog, and the school that she really loved. So that was really difficult for her to make that that move and that readjustment, I guess, to life here. You know, going from a house with a backyard and to an apartment and a stranger living with us, like they're having help live with us. So really, yeah, really.
Let's stop. Let me just write down where are we. Oh no, I'll find this.
Yeah, okay, just cut.
So we often talk so much about the transition for like relocating and talking to the trailing spouse and the person that will potentially be isolated from work, and that we focus a lot on that individual spouse or the adult in the relationship and in the move. And I think particularly Australians are very blasé about the kids, and it'll be right, they'll be right, kids are resilient, all of those sorts of things. But it sounds like you've really had to action this in a different way. Did you have to make any promises or bribes or anything when you left Oz?
Yeah, so definitely the horse riding. So she would have to, it was non-negotiable for her if she was to come with us. She had to be able to still ride horses, which we managed to get her into a really good riding school. So she's still doing that, and she's still doing competitions. So she's really, really happy in that regard. Another thing that I implemented is she's really creative and loves art. So every Saturday I would take her to a different art class, or, you know, we tried resin workshops, oil painting, pottery, you know, anything that I could think of that she'd be interested in. We have done every Saturday. It was like a mummy and daughter type date thing. So there's that. And also the building of the new friendship. So she is, you know, naturally she's a very friendly little girl, but her relationships and her friendships in Australia, she'd known those little girls since birth. So, you know, cousins, very, very close. My girlfriend, who we were pregnant at the same time, she grew up with these other little girls. So that's that can be hard to replicate when you move for a little person. So, you know, we've had friends in the condo. She's got friends from school. So she's slowly getting there, but it's still not the same for her.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And we just sort of brushed that, I think. And that's something that I think is really interesting to consider when you're planning this, is to actually genuinely have a think about the kids, which I can hand on heart say I didn't. I have also a 9-year-old daughter who I was like, I deep down knew, I was like, this is going to be really tricky for her. Same deal. She's a farm kid that we were moving from, like, where she runs around with no clothes on and no shoes on, into an apartment building where clothes are not optional, and moving into a city and all of these sorts of things. And I was very blasé. I was like, you'll be right, it'll be fine. But our 9-year-old was well and truly a lot more challenging. And I think that that's something that we don't sort of consider them so much. But then the added pressure, like, did you find that was one of the most stressful things about the move, was your management of her?
Without a doubt. So for my relationship with my husband, it is so much better. My relationship with my son, my 3-year-old, amazing. But in my daughter and I, we've still got a beautiful relationship, don't get me wrong. It's just that I've had to, I mean, that's been where my stress has been. I haven't had much stress elsewhere. That has been my stress. Just managing her and making sure that she's happy and that she's, you know, surrounded by the right people and still doing things that she enjoys, and trying to, really help her and hold her hand through this process. It's been a year now, but we're coming to, I feel like, you know, it ebbs and flows. So at the 6-month mark, my husband and I were like, yes, she's loving Singapore. She's got this great group of friends. Everything's going well. But then we had family visit, and we went home for Christmas. And I just think maybe it was a bit too soon, because she got to experience, you know, and see her friends again, and it just kind of set her back.
Yeah, like reopened the wound.
Yeah. So now we're building it back up again.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. That could be some very interesting, well, an interesting takeaway for people listening to this is that, like, don't
Yeah.
go home too
Never
soon.
had too soon. If you've got more of it, and not that she's super emotional, but she's very in tune with her emotions. So she's a feeler. So
Mm.
she feels big emotions, and
Wow. She's going to be 15 too. You're going to.
oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But we also do lots of little trips away, just mummy daughter trips away. So we went to Bali, we're going to KL, like we're doing little trips away, just the two of us to, help her explore more because she's a born traveler as well. She loves to travel. So she fits really well into our family.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're like, get with the program, kid. You are living expat life here. Like,
Dream. Yeah, dream. Everyone says you're living the dream. So, like I touched on before, my husband and I, we, back in Australia, I don't remember the last time we'd had a date night, just the two of us. Because we've got two children and we didn't have help back at home, even though our family was close by, well, it's not the same. So I think that moving here out for our relationship, it has improved dramatically because we have time together. We can go away for a weekend, we can go out for dinner, we can go for a walk down the river anytime we want. So that's good. That's improved. And my son, I take this as such a blessing because I've been given the opportunity to spend more time with him while he's young. So we do art classes together as well. He does, gymnastics and swimming and football, and I'm able to take him to all of those things. Whereas in Australia, I was working full time, so it was hard to do that and to volunteer at school and to do all that sort of stuff. It was a lot more challenging.
so what were you doing for work before you left?
Yeah, I was in HR, so recruitment. I worked for both small and large companies. But I think that, I'm just not built for the 9 to 5 type life, like the corporate life anymore. I think that's just not me. Well, I know that's not me. So this has given me a real, new lease on life because I've been able to step back and look at my life and really, choose the things that I'm passionate about and that I want to develop within myself rather and then also spend time with the children and my husband. I didn't have the opportunity to do that back in Australia. I have the opportunity to do that now. It's almost like I was having a conversation with a girlfriend the other day. It's almost like, how everyone is on that treadmill and they're working really, really hard and they're missing out on so much of life because they want to work really hard, save all this money for when they're 60 and retire. I don't gel with that. That's not my groove at all. I'm like, okay, you can work really hard, but I also think, you need to have this time in the prime, like in your 30s or 40s, where you can take a step back and really enjoy your life because you might not get to live to 60 or 70. And when you want to retire, when you've got all the money or whatever you need to keep going on this treadmill, you enjoy it now and worry about that later. So I'm enjoying the now. I'm enjoying it now.
I love hearing this. I love hearing someone that has totally taken expat life by the horns and is just
Yeah.
like living best life. It's so good. So tell me, what does a week in Leanne's life look like in Singapore? And then everyone that's like hating on whatever their daily grind is can just be completely hating on you while they're listening.
Don't get me wrong, I worked hard. Like it's because of the hard work that I did when I was younger, that I'm able to do what I can now. So we have like properties that bring in money and stuff like that. So we're in a position where we can. And also, the expat life is a little bit more generous, I guess. But anyway, so average week would be taking my 3-year-old to all his different classes. I do spin classes for myself. So I do adult art classes as well. I've joined a book club, so we do book club lunches, brunches. I go to day spas, I get my nails done.
So good.
I'm just living my life. And I also joined another club where I go and listen to inspirational speakers. So I might listen to a speaker that they're talking about, NFTs or something completely not in my realm, but I want to learn about it. So it's just given me the opportunity to go to different, workshops, meet different people, speak to people who I normally wouldn't speak to, and learn about different things. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me then, I'm always really interested to hear about how people build their network in a new place and things. So like for example, your group, I would love to hear more about your inspirational speakers, the group that you've, like, how did you find these things in the first place, and sort of how, like, do you navigate that? Are you like naturally an extrovert that's quite happy going to something and introducing yourself and those sorts of things?
Not really. I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert, but I am confident enough to go to networking events and mingle and talk to people, because I feel like there's so many interesting people at those networking events, and they're open to usually a person that goes to a networking event is open to talking to other people. So that's an easy way. But through the schools, I joined the book clubs. And through people that I've met in condo life. So condo life is very different to Newcastle suburban life. Through the condos, you meet, and our condo in particular has, a WhatsApp group, a mum's WhatsApp group where, we've started a mahjong group. So I've never played mahjong before in my life, but now I'm a mahjong player. We play every Wednesday night.
So cool.
All these new experiences that I'm exposed to here that I was never exposed to back in Newcastle. So yeah, through the condo, actually, I've met a lot of people, and now we fly to Bali every second weekend to catch up with someone that's moved there, or someone who's having a party in Thailand. It's just incredible how your network expands when you geographically relocate. And you never know who you're going to meet and what ideas you're going to gravitate towards. Or it's just, I love living more of that spontaneous life.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. And I love that when you can look at this relocation, and especially for expats relocating somewhere like this, is that you're exposed to so many different things to what you would have been at home, especially coming from a country like Australia, and then the more regional that you go, like these things just don't exist in your orbit at home. And I love sort of hearing how that very quickly your network does that spider web thing, and that you then just meeting people all through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you form really close bonds with these people because they're in a similar situation to you. They've left their hometown, they've left their family, their friends that they've grown up with, and they're in this foreign environment and trying to do the same as you, meet people. And sometimes you'll naturally gravitate towards a similar soul to yourself, and then sometimes it'll be completely different. So I don't know if you want to censor this, but when we first arrived here, we became very friendly with another couple, and we went to like dinners with them, and they invited us on holidays with them. but before we went on the holiday, we found out they were swingers, and, and we were like, backpedal. Now we know why you were being so friendly and so welcoming.
Oh my God.
Yes. So you can, yeah, that happened. But we felt, really welcomed into the
I can imagine. I can imagine.
not
What
our
what an amazing welcome.
not our vibe whatsoever. But like I said, you gain, when you put yourself in these situations, you don't really know the background of these people, right? So you're just navigating it away, and oh yeah, they're friendly. They want us to go here, there, and there. Okay, we'll go along until we're put in a situation.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we're each to their own, but no, we are not swingers.
So when you retrospectively look back on your relocation,
Yeah.
there are things that you wish that you had known prior to leaving, that you sort of, if you could sort of redo things, or like for people that are at early stage or about to leave, or are sort of very green still, are there things that you wish you'd known at the start?
I think that make sure that you're set up financially. That's a big one, because especially moving to a place like Singapore is a very expensive place to live. So get your finances in order first. If you have children, maybe I don't know. I'm maybe not the best person to speak to on this, but the little ones should be a breeze. I think the older that they get, the more challenging it becomes. So, having a really open discussion with them and seeing if there's any way you can make that transition smoother for them. And it's not everyone's experience. Every little person's personality is different, right? So what may be an easier transition for one might be more challenging for another. So it's just holding their hands and making sure they feel safe and loved. And but at the end of the day, it could be quite challenging for that 9-year-old age bracket. And other than that, the normal stuff like researching where you're going to possibly live, the schools. If you know someone that already lives there, that would be a help. Like I have a friend that was already living in Singapore, so we'd visited a few times. So I knew Singapore was safe. We knew it was clean, and we knew it was like a greener kind of environment as well. So they were all big ticks for us, because especially with children, you want it to be safe. But then other than that, I think going in with a very, very open mind. Yeah.
Maybe just not who you holiday with, though.
Yeah.
There might be a limit to how open your mind is.
Yeah. When I said that, I'm kind of trying to hold back a smirk. Like,
Do you have a gold nugget of advice that if you could wrap it up into one piece of advice, if someone had come to you and said, right, I think I want to do this, what would be your one piece of advice?
I think just go and do it. I mean, we like I said before, we're natural born travelers. I just want to really live a very rich and fulfilling life, and I think you just don't hold back. Don't be scared, and you just never know who you're going to meet, what experiences you're going to have, and we have this one life, so we may as well go out and live in different countries and soak up as much culture and as we possibly can. And I think it's also really good for the children when they get past that initial shock of
once you've stopped traumatizing them by
yeah. But now, now my 9-year-old, and my 3-year-old, but my 9-year-old has friends all over the world. So we've all already visited a friend of hers that moved to Bali. We're visiting a friend of hers that moved to KL in a couple of weeks' time. So she's got friends. She's going to have these networks all over the world. it's going to really, you know, set her up for her adventures as she gets older. So we'll see. Watch this space.
What an amazing gift to be able to give kids. Like, I think that's been a really big thing for me as well, is that
Yeah.
like, what a treat to be able to let these kids do this, and what a privilege to be able to do it with them. It's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All these new experiences, the people they meet, the traveling, because being in Singapore, it's so easy just to fly to Bali for the weekend or Vietnam or Thailand. You know, it's just the proximity to all these amazing places. And then they get to see, experience different cultures. And we're trying to make our goal for the rest of the year not to do too many beach holidays, because I feel like we've done beach holidays to death. So we're trying to do more, you know, maybe in the mountains and something a bit more cultural, like temples and things like that. But all that's great for the children as well. It's not, holidays are not just about the beach.
Spoken like a true coastal girl.
I know. I grew up at the beach. No more beaches for a while.
So funny. I always find it funny when people that live at the beach, I'm like, but where do you guys actually go on holiday?
Yes.
Go to a different beach?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Leanne, thank you so much. It's been such a treat to hear like such a joyous experience. And I say that very genuinely, because it's just, you can just hear it in your voice that it's just been such an amazing experience to date. And I'm just so thrilled for you. It's so awesome.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.